Good evening, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov, and welcome to today's lecture on YouTube. I do hope you can all hear me well, and we are getting started on a very important topic. What we're going to be talking about today is the way to convert, and it's a very good question that a lot of chess players do not know how to answer. So, how do we convert an advantage? How do we convert a position that we consider good, and yet it's not that easy? Well, this is going to be my topic and what I will try to explain to you today. First, we're going to begin with a game, actually, a couple of different games that were in the fantastic new course by chess master Melahina, who actually made a very nice course, and actually quite a few nice courses, but the one of the recent ones provided a few amazing games that she's played, and I was very impressed, very interested to see more of this. So I would like to share with you some of the impressions that I had from these games of her and how she was able to do this at a level that's very easy to understand, yes, yet very interesting. So first thing, we start with the game. Okay, I'm going to open up here that she lost. Actually, this is quite interesting because she provides a game that she has lost herself. And this is such an instructive example to see, you know, all these little elements that I have in mind. So the game basically started with e4, c5, knight of 3, e6, c3, d5, e5, and d4. For those of you who may not recognize this opening, basically we're actually playing the normal variation. Like black is setting up the pawn on the d4, preventing this pawn from advancing on the d4 and everything. So it's nice. I wouldn't say that it's perfect, but it's definitely quite nice. And so after the d4, there's bishop d3, knight c6, and castling short. So this is how it goes. It's fine. The development's feeling good. Black played knight e7, rook e1, knight f5. Now white plays queen e2, and let's talk a little bit about the possibility to exchange, because there was this definite possibility to exchange the knight on f5, or actually to avoid that. And it depends on how we go about this. I think that exchanging the knight on f5 is a strong, really important possibility. Not so much because of the idea of trading off, but because after the exchange and retake, that could have created huge weaknesses inside black's territory. And that's something you'd definitely care to achieve. Think about that. So, number one, we like to think about creating a weakness. And we like to think about creating a large weakness, like what bishop takes f5 would have done. Creating a large weakness inside black's territory and thereby making him to worry. That pawn is something he's got to worry about. Then, ultimately, that could have led us to actually playing slightly in a different manner. For instance, one of the ways could have been to play with c4 to lock things up a little bit more. And possibly in that type of position, especially after the move c4, there could be a move like d3 that can be played. There could be a way to play with knight of the d2, knight f1, maybe even knight of the g3. It is interesting. It's easy, and it would have guaranteed a chance to build up and play on that side, on the king's side. It is the way it was supposed to be, but didn't happen quite like that. So what really went on different was this. So c4, instead of that, actually, sorry, knight f5, there was queen to the e2. What I like to say about this is it was all right. It was quiet. It was nice. It was a simple move, actually, in this position to get that queen around. Maybe even get it a bit closer towards the e4, so it can move up to attack instantaneously against the g4 and maybe even g7, which I find quite nice. And so after that, black played bishop e7, knight a3, and h5. So black plays h5. Of course, white plays alongside h3. And then that's a good position. I have to admit that looking at the pawn on e5 as it is really strong, because it kind of keeps black down, cuts him off so that he's got enough problems out there. And then we understand that black is certainly having a problem with his ability to castle and do anything. So that's strong. So what happened? I mean, White got a fairly nice formation. We haven't got to the theme yet, which is, yeah, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. But the position started pretty well. The beginning is always like this. So, when it comes down to converting an advantage, we're usually talking about a situation far up in the play. So we're not yet there for sure. So anyway, after that move, pretty much black played longside castles, and now white exchanged and knight takes d4. Now, I want to tell you where all, or at least where the majority of white's problems really go to. It's not so much that he had a bad position or he has a structure that doesn't fit. It's more of the fact that the majority of white's pieces simply do not feel like they have the potential or the value to be anything. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're too bad. No, it doesn't. It just means that we don't have the value, the opportunity to set those pieces through. There's nothing that they can do. Black is now kind of attacking us against the against the e2. So now there was the move of knight takes d4, knight takes d4, pawn takes to the d4. So white is not in a good position. Now she tried to improve, and it worked. In a way, it did. Exchange, the rook was involved, there was a check, structure was created, and it wasn't all that bad. White got better. Everything felt right. Rook c3 felt right, exchange felt right, pawn that was taken, and now this is the position. In a few moments, we're going to see happen is that white loses his bishop. It was crazy. See, this really happened right now in that easily winning position. And this is the first thing that I'd like to tell you about. If you ever play a more tactical or a more challenging position just like this one, the rule number one that you would like to ask yourself about is, what are the weaknesses? And like this is really just about that. What happen to be the actual weaknesses that I have? Most people will never really think about it that way. And yet that's why most people will never, come to the idea of what I must go for, what I must do. What we see in this situation is exactly that. Black has a fantastic setup with some strong pieces and the idea that he can be very, very successful. Now, white's next move, bishop to the d6, it wasn't right. Now, what could he do so that he could stay away from that type of trouble? Because obviously this is tricky. I think a lot better would have been to play a move like bishop to the b4. Not a perfect move. No, by no means this is a perfect move. I get that. But what this would have been is a fairly nice move. Defending the pawn on the d2, getting the chance to keep everything together, and then we can have that option to play maybe a move of probably bishop to the c3. We can do rook to the e1. We can have a good opportunity to step up. This is it. Rule number one, when the position is complex, even in case you have an advantage, and that doesn't mean that we have an advantage right now, but even if we do, the first thing that you'd like to be doing in this case is to solidify, to stabilize out there. And you see, this is a great thing. If that move actually happened in this moment, everything would have been quite good. So like the bishop to the c3, then possibly there is a chance to play maybe with the move of rook e1 or whatever, and it's good. It doesn't have to be that bad actually. So, all right. What happens after black got the advantage? Take a look at this. Once black got the advantage, exchange. Changing the queens, that's all there is. And so like after that type of a move, there's nothing. Just actually we have this, so after that we have the rook takes the d2 as an actual threat to follow it. And so this is not good. It's definitely a big problem in that position. And yes, so this is quite interesting. There's an attack that's happening. There is more. And so after this, okay, there's bishop to the g5 there. And actually after king c5, h6 to the g, h6 to the g, king to the b4. Now the d2 is quite badly pressured. What was the biggest thing that made it so easy for black to win in this game? Well, the easiest thing was the exchange. There's nothing else than the possibility to exchange, because when you exchange, you simplify the position and you make it really easy. You make it straightforward. That idea of playing a2 plus a1 and everything was just great. And so yeah, we just cut him off. He doesn't have the chance. All that white had to do is bishop to b4. Rule number one: if you ever want to win a winning position or avoid getting in trouble, choose the simplest moves you can take. It's always going to be the best idea out there. And so this is all you'd like to keep in mind. So that's what you would like to keep in mind. And all right, so now what I like to do is to bring up another type of game that you presented that shows a little bit more about how to make this work. So give me a second. Can I open it up? Now the other game was played between Chirila and Melahina. So this is another game. Chirila is a grandmaster, very famous grandmaster, and actually he's playing many championships that I was actually playing when I was younger. So let's take a look. He's playing with white, so you'd like to have a look at this game. It's a pretty good game. So white created long-term weaknesses. That's one of the first things that you'd like to do. Okay, so what you like to be thinking about is, yes, creating those weaknesses was a great idea. Then we can think about bishop e3, queen b2, possibly the long side castles, and an idea to advance on the king side. So this is a great setup. Very, very strong. Black plays queen c7, bishop e3, b6, queen d2, e5, and a4, queen e7. How do we exploit a weakness like this in this position? This is very, very important. I guess right now, white has to figure out where to play. So, like, just what happened in the game? I would like you to take a moment and think about what white should do right now. It's a great question. It's a very, very important query. Where do we go? So take a second to analyze. And you know what? The first thing that you got to go for is, see, number one, this is a big idea. Rule number one: start with simple moves. You cannot exploit the opponent's weaknesses unless you make things as easy and as simple as possible. Okay, so like this is very, very important. Okay, so after that type of a move, then actually black plays the move of knight to knight there. This is a great candidate. And then what's happening after that? That kind of move has happened. White plays bishop to the h6. It's a great candidate. Step by step, white just improves. He wants to exchange the black line, the square bishop, and he does. It's good. So now black play. There's queen takes h, f6, knight d2, g5, and then knight d1. What I find quite interesting about this position isn't just the way on how white has already displayed some of the power of his pieces, like that queen on h6, for example, which is quite good, by the way. But this, the fact that he can go slowly, like knight d1 towards the e3, so it can go towards f5. The more you hold your opponent in the bad position, the more mistakes he is going to make. This is really important. All that we want to do in this case is just keep him back there. And so after the move knight d1, black played with the move of queen to the f8 in this case. So in that moment, white simply moves with queen to h5. So just black plays queen to the f7. Then we play queen to the f3, knight f8, And so there's knight c4. See, we keep him there. This is really, really important in that type of position. And all you want to go for is make sure that you do not let the opponent to do anything. So this is really, really important. Okay, so that's a great thing to follow. And okay, so actually after that, then black played with the candidate of king e7. Not a great move, but he had to do it, obviously. And then white plays with knight e3, h5, and rook e1. What I love about this position is just the way on how white has set it up all of his pieces. The two knights that are great. The knight on f5 is a possibility in this type of position, and yeah, it's a great line. So far, everything looks good. Okay, and yes, after that, black played with a move of g4. And so what's going on? I mean, apparently what black wants to do is to open up as quickly as possible and counterattack. Now let him. Remember that type of position. Let him do that because when when he does, okay, then he is going to create the weaknesses that you need in order to actually create an attack. Like so he's attacking from the weak position. He's doing it badly. That's what you have to remember. And as soon as we go forward, in fact, there's h6 to the g. There's the move of h6 to the g, queen to the g3 is, and so actually, and this is a great candidate. We have the queen that's covering some of the squares, and then the majority of black's pieces are quite badly placed, and so that's very important. Okay, good. This is great. And what? Let's take a look and see this here and knight f5 check, king d8. See how easy it is? We're doing it all from a position of safety. We don't have to hurry. We don't have to do any of this. Let's just keep the opponent back there in the more difficult position. So he's got to worry. Black plays with g takes f. White plays the move queen takes f3 in that position. And yes, so it's a great setup. Most of black's pieces are actually behind. And so this is great. This, then, white plays the move pawn to the a5. b5, knight b6. See, the breakthrough is going to happen. See, we can do this. But you'd actually like to know that is first and foremost, you don't know when that is going to happen out there. So this is very important. Like, so the key thing in this type of position is that you'd always want to go for and then concentrate on improving and building up and just taking the possibility to to step up. So for example, after that move of knight b6 rook to the b8, white exchange. Now you may be wondering, okay, like why would that happen? Why was that even necessary? I mean, in that way. Well, here's why. It was quite necessary because without that bishop, there's going to be basically nothing that could keep the light squares free. And so that is a very, very important. So this is a great way to go for. And so let's take a look. So if the knight takes to the c8, or king takes the rook takes the c8 in this type of position, then of course we have the advantage. Everything is great. And white plays with queen e3. This is powerful. We have an excellent idea to attack against the opponent. And then we have this opportunity to again to capture the c5 pawn. So it actually forced this queen to go back in this moment. And then what do we do? So is there any way to make this happen? Is there anything that we could continue with in this position? Well, I mean, we do have a great pressure. That's a great setup in this position. We have an excellent way to follow. But what do we do? King f2. It's amazingly bad looking at that moment. But why are we playing it? Well, rule number one, no hurry. that actually helps you just to realize the value. With that move in mind, we're able to now focus our attention on playing a move like rook h1. So in case he exchanges, then we have the move of rook takes to the h1, and then there is the move rook takes h1. So this is great. And then this is a beautiful way to follow up with. Okay, so actually after this move, black played knight to the h4. So then there was knight g3. So that's how we're going for. So now the knight is actually stable. We're ready to go with the move of rook to the g1, rook h1. Things look excellent. Step by step. All you want to do is not to hurry. If your opponent has gotten a permanent disadvantage or permanent weaknesses, what you want. So just it's a very, very interesting thing. And okay, so like after continuing with this type of move, then black plays rook to the e8, rook h1. So this is quite interesting. And then as soon as that's played, black played with the move king to the b8. And in this case, there's no way on how black can make anything there. So okay, rook h3, knight g6, rook takes h8, knight takes h8, rook h1. It's a great way to follow up in this moment. And yes, so this is how we'd like to follow in this position. So in fact, after continuing with this move, everything is ready. Position is perfect. And then after knight f7, knight f5. We're going to come back out there. So we have great opportunities, but it's like after that type of a move, we just have the opportunity to follow up against the opponent, and we can think about probably ahead with the move of rook h7. This is great, step by step. Okay, and so after knight g5, white plays rook to the h6. Strong candidate, good pressure over the f6, and we have everything in line. One of the biggest ideas in such a position is to keep your opponent under pressure as much as you can. This is never going to be too easy to do, but you would like to try. How do you do that? Well, just keep him back there. Like, keep him behind. Then black's got to do knight to the e6, rook g6, knight d4, queen h6. The exchange of queens is really important because without those queens on the board, everything's going to be hanging for him. There's the f6 that will get taken. There's going to be everything else too, and that's just it's just perfect out there. So this is a great follow up. After continuing with the move of queen to the h6, basically black has a problem. Knight takes f, queen takes f8. The most important idea of a player who wants to win such a position is to make sure that rule number one, I mean, this is the key, you keep your opponent under pressure. That's all you'd like to do. Just forget anything else. Keep your opponent under pressure. That's a great idea. And so actually after that type of move, then what are we doing here? I mean, we definitely have a lot of pressure. So black has to play with rook f7, king f3, king to the c7, g4, king d7, king e4. And then after black played with the king e8, we've got a6. That cuts off black's possibility to play a move like a6 himself. And it's a great shot. That is not. There's certainly nothing that black can do in this type of position. We definitely have moves like g5 and the others to follow up with, and yes, that's a great way to go. G5 is powerful, pressure is good, and black's definitely not doing all too well. He plays king f8 and b3. What I love about this approach is that how we could actually go a bit slow in this way. So we could take away the square of c4, and now black certainly cannot do the pawn push. We keep him down, tied down on the f6. We've got his rook on f7. That's horrible. And actually, when black played with b4, white plays g5. F takes g5, rook takes g5, rook h7, rook to g2, rook h1, king takes e5. King goes up, we take that pawn, and we capture the other, rook g6. This king comes forward, and we do kill him. but we do it slowly. This is very, very important out there. So that's all we have to remember in this type of position. So all you have to do is keep the opponent on the back side. This is really, really important. And of course, so just after rook a4, rook takes a7, rook goes out there, and it's a really powerful thing. Yeah, what a wonderful, in my opinion, what this was a really wonderful setup of seeing how a couple of pieces could really work together in order to attack. And now with that rook c7, no counterplay. The key to any successful advantage is the ability for us to keep our opponent on the backside for as long as we can, and the longer he has to stay back there in the bad position, the more we can keep growing and keep advancing to take advantage. So it was a great, great variation. Most importantly, what I love about this is just how white really turned this into a fantastic sequence. It was good. Queen, the knight, the rook onto the h1 square, and everything else that followed. It was just beautiful. It was made simple. It was easy, and this is very important. So, like, in fact, actually, after that type of move, we have this idea to follow up in this case. Mm, just great. Let's take a look at another example so you could see. Mhm. Okay, here we go. Another very instructive game that I want to point out to was played between Bailey and Melechina. Now, do not forget to check the link below the video for 70% off the amazing course of Melechina on practical chess, and especially on how to convert an advantage and do it. Now, I'm just showing a small part of what I was able to learn from these games, but there's so much more. So I do recommend you to check it out. Okay, so let's take a look and see. So basically, after c4, knight c3, g3, bishop to the g2, there's d3, rook to the b1, and then pawn up to the e4. Okay, so let's take a look. After that move, then what happens is that black plays knight to the a6, here, there, and short castles. Black castled short too. White plays with the move of pawn up to the f4, which was actually quite nice. Queen b6 check, king h1. Rook d8, b4 is played out, which is actually perfect in this position because it cuts off the c5 square away from him. And it also guarantees some other possibilities, like bishop a3 can be played, or queen a4, or even b5. I mean, I do love this quite a bit, as a matter of fact. So that's seriously strong. And then actually, as soon as we played with the move of pawn to the b4, black played queen c7, and then there was bishop e3, e takes f, bishop takes f. Now, white got a fairly strong position. So how do we, utilize it? How do we make it more powerful, more compound? First, constantly put pressure. This is very, very important. If you continue with that, you know, you can be very successful, actually. So this is a great way to follow. What do we do right now? Well, very important thing. Rule number one. Okay. So rule number one always happens to be advance and attack. If you do make it, it's always going to be a great idea. Black had to play knight to the c7 right now, and then what we're doing is to play with the move queen to the a4. He's got to go a6, and then we play b6. He's moving that knight right back to the e8 square, and then white plays alongside with the move rook c1, bishop h3 and d4. And this was great because then, the whole thing is that White just keeps on building. He has this incredible sequence. White's got this incredible ability to expand. He has the e5 and d5 square under a very good command, and it's always about that. Expand. This is a really strong thing to do in this type of position. So what do we do next? Black plays h6. White plays bishop e3. Bishop takes the g2. King takes the g2. And it's now we have what we have right now is that basically now black plays with the move opponent to the f5. And yeah, so this is a great way to go. White plays with the queen to the c2 in this type of position. And now black plays knight f6. See, when we don't have the actual threat, you don't want to push it. You do not want to rush it forward. That's a big idea. If you rush the position forward, that's likely going to backfire. We do not want to do that. This is a great position to just build on slowly and gradually. So now white plays bishop g1. See, he's like letting black to stay in this type of position. So just let him stay. Let him just be there in the backside. Okay, so this is a very interesting position. Now, the moment this happened in the game, after bishop to the g1, things look good. Black played directly with actually rook to the e8, and then white played c5. And what I really love about this structure here is the build-up. Everything just looks fantastic. So that's great. What we have is the nice attack happening against the opponent's d6. We're opening up, and then when the position opens, you're always going to have great abilities, great opportunities. This is a good way to go. Black played f takes 3, and white plays with knight takes to the e4. Knight takes to the e4, rook takes f8, bishop takes f8, queen takes e4 is quite interesting. Most of black's own pieces are fairly bad and horrible almost. He played knight f5, queen to the d3 in this position, and it's good. It's definitely quite good. Queen e6, knight f4, check, rook. See, it's just not equal. Battle that white is actually taking against black. This is very, very important. White is so much better prepared, and black is so far back. That's a really important thing. And of course, after that type of a move, then just like actually, this is after king f7, d5. So let's see what happens in the game. After that, d5, d takes to the c. There's d takes to the c6 in this type of position. We're just capturing the pawn. We're attacking him quickly. And then after d takes to the c, b takes to the c, we have bishop takes c5, g5, and then knight h3. Here, c5, queen a2 check, king h1, knight e7. All that battle is really going in a terrible way. Just why? Because this is a big thing. Rule number 1. Every single time there is a battle between those kind of pieces, actually yours as well as your opponents, you can think, okay, so right now we're much better prepared, a lot stronger at that point, and it's so much bigger. So for example, after that, black plays queen to the e6, there's queen b1. We got b8 with the queen. That's actually happening in this type of position. And yes, it's amazing. So for instance, after that move, black plays queen to d6, knight takes g5. See, black is totally tied down on a defense, and our white's just breaking through, and everything is great. So black plays h takes the g, rook takes the g5 in this type of position, and it's not good. It's not that good. It's a lot of problems. It's definitely horrible in this position, and yes, strong, efficient, and quite dangerous out there. So let's take a look. After that, queen takes to g, there's queen f1, queen takes f5, rook g7. If he goes back, there's b8, queen d7, checkmate. It's quite easy, and it's working. It worked out really, really well for white. What helped in this game for white to become so successful, so darn successful with everything that he did, was the build-up, the pressure, and the fact that white kept on expanding. That is the whole idea. If you expand, you gain that space, the control, and a lot of the great possibilities against your opponent. And you are able to achieve some brilliant resources by doing so. It was a wonderful game, and I love the way and how white played it. So that's basically it. I hope that you enjoyed my suggestions. Again, do not forget to check uh, Master Melahina's course, which is offered at 70% off. It's a great deal. It's a great bargain. It's a brand new course. You can learn a lot about these practical approaches. Those are just a few of the ones that she's offering. So you can definitely take a look at those and see. I hope it makes sense. Just please keep in mind that those are invaluable lectures, and I'll speak to you next week, next Saturday at 12 o'clock. Don't forget to check the courses, and also you can check my site, tigerlilov.com, if you have any questions or games that you might want to send me. Thanks so much.